Hi, my name is Jill Monroe, a member of the African American Film Critics Association, and today we are thrilled to be talking with the cast of Prime series House of David, Michael Iskander and Martyn Ford. Before we get into the questions, I want to introduce you to the AAFCA members that are on the call. We have Michael Swell, Derek Dunn, Karan Lenore Kelly, Ruben Regard, Dana Abercrombie, Jonathan Midcore, and Jason Johnson.
Can one stone change the course of history?
Cowards! Send me your champion! Goliath!
Can one act of defiance create the legend? I will tell you the story of David, a simple shepherd boy.
Why do my brothers get to fight? And I'm stuck here.
David, you are not a man of blood.
An outcast who became one of the most famous kings who ever lived.
God does not see what man sees. He sees into the heart. And you have the heart of a lion.
The Philistines have assembled. I saw the print of a hand, larger than a weaver's basket.
They have a giant.
What?
My king, I will fight the giant.
Fight him with the same spirit you bring into this room.
You play music for my father. Now he chooses you as champion. How will you do this?
It's not about the greatness of the giant. It is about the greatness of God.
Are you afraid?
Terrified.
I believe in you.
So, as the fate of a people hangs in the balance, again I ask this question. Can one stone change the course of history?
Hi, I'm Michael Sowell from Washington, D.C. First, congratulations on highlighting one of my favorite stories in scripture. And honestly, with the David and Goliath story, this is just such an iconic moment in that, passage. However, there's so much weight and pressure I can imagine on terms of receiving end from actors trying to play these iconic roles. What you talked about in terms of the process of not only understanding the characters, but just your process of knowing the emotional but also mental weight of actually embodying those figures.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're correct in everything you said there, and a brilliant question. It's one of those opportunities as an actor that you get, and very soon into the reading of the script, you realize how much magnitude, how much history, how much knowledge, and how much respect you have to show to the story. There's nowhere in this you can deviate from the truth. But I think what's really important is you take time to ask questions that may be relevant and that may have been there. Because I say that from a sense of, we've all read the story, we've all heard the story, but no one knows the inside of the mind of the individuals. No one knows, you can say something and think something that's completely different. I may say something and you can interpret it completely differently. And I think that's the joy of film and the joy of cinema. My view take on how the story is wrote could be different to every single one of you out there. And what's beautiful is if you take the time and have patience and empathy, you may see something within Goliath that you would sit there and and I won't say understand, but maybe it allows you to understand him, and it allows you to understand his situations, his decisions, and it allows you to see that, you know, maybe Goliath was born with good intention, and what happened throughout his life changed that intention. And let's put this in a scenario of a young child who was born and loses the support network. He might lose his parents, he might lose his friends, he might lose his family of some sort. And then that child is thrust to make a decision. Do I go for survival? Do I pick a group of people that can look after me and support me short term, who might not have great intentions long term? And that would change the life of that individual. I think that's pretty much what my take was on Goliath. It's like, I don't want to change the outcome. I don't want people to be on his side, but I want people to understand that this is something that could happen to individuals. And that was, I wouldn't say it was a pressure, but I'd say it was something for me that I wanted to try and give the audience to take out.
Yeah, I think for me, there definitely is a huge weight to portraying such an important biblical figure. And obviously so many people have a relationship with King David. And so it's quite the challenge to tell his story. But for me, you know, I always reverted to scripture. And ultimately this was about God for me. And I knew that there was nothing that I could do that would truly embody this role if I were to just do it on my own. And so I found myself reading in the book of 1st and 2nd Samuel and reading the Psalms of David and truly trying to find his heart. And ultimately he was known as a man after God's own heart. And so what did that look like in every moment of his life? How did the solitude of being with the sheep alone all day and doing that very lowly job as a young boy do to this man? And ultimately, why did God choose him to be the king of Israel? And so these are some of the questions that I asked myself when tackling David. And ultimately, I'm not David, I'm Michael. But the only thing I could do is try to find the things that I relate to with David. And a lot of that is, you know, he's a teenager, he's trying to figure himself out. I was a teenager like last month. And so that, you know, I could relate to him on that sense. You know, he's just trying to figure himself out. But ultimately his heart is for the Lord. And so in every scene I try to find the Lord in it.
Well, I just want to say, you know, thank you, you know, for you guys providing your performances in this show. And it definitely is a show that's needed today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, this is Karan Lenoir Kelly with Karanism.com and Love Music Pleasure. And my question for you, because I am a person of faith, I'd like to know how much of this in your roles was about faith or creative license and story? And did it change or evolve what you believe?
Yeah, I think, I mean, ultimately for me, I'm Egyptian. I'm a Coptic Christian, and my faith has been an essential part of me since I was a little kid. I was baptized as a baby. And so for me, both on a personal level and for David, I knew that faith is an essential part in telling the story. For me, I don't see a way to tell the story of David without God. And ultimately, he is the catalyst of the story. He is the one that anoints Saul, and he is the one that anoints David. And like I said before, you know, David is a man known after God's own heart. That's what he's famous for. And Jesus is known as the son of David. And so there was a great relationship there between David and God, and it's clear in his Psalms how much he longed for the Lord. And so for me, I think what I try to focus on the most is that heart, and where to find God in every single moment, and what David's true motivations were. And I think that's what ultimately leads a young boy to face off against a giant. You know, he doesn't hate his enemy, but he loves his God, and he loves his people, and he's defending them. And that's the true reason behind why we're telling the story and why it means so much to me.
I mean, for myself, this conversation we had at lunchtime, which was very interesting. It'd be very easy for me to sit here and go, I'm a huge believer, and it would be the easy answer to give you guys. Now, for me, I believe that I'm a very good person, and I'm a good dad, I'm a good husband, and I'd like to think I'm a good role model. Whether I do or don't believe is not something that I choose to do or choose not to do. I'm someone who's very open-minded, very, very understanding, and also of an opinion that this show is so incredible and so powerful because it opens up stories and it opens up thoughts and it asks people questions who maybe are on that fence line where it's like, I want to believe in something, but I'm not sure what that could be. I want to have that. I'd love that answer. I'd love to know more. I'm very much in that audience, which I think was the primary reason why this was a show that was so important to make. I think it's a show that's based around love, warmth, caring, understanding, an incredible bunch of people. And I think ultimately it's very hard to put a definitive yes or no on what the right or what the right opinions of individuals should be. But I think at any core of an individual, there needs to be goodness, there needs to be warmth, there needs to be love and understanding. And I think that is kind of where I'd see myself. I'd say, let's say there was a day where it came to a decision like, you need to believe this, you need to be that, you need to be this. But ultimately, in my opinion, you need to be a good person. You need to put other people in front, and you need to be open to opportunities and suggestions. And I think that's ultimately what my draw to this was. It was having that opportunity to put myself in a position to educate and to show people that this could be an option. It could be something that you could learn more about. And I think that's why the studios have backed it, because deep in with all of us, we just want to be good people. And I think that's an important message to take out. And for the faith groups, it really should be, let's open our doors. Let's open our hearts and try to give time and to give questions and to give answers to those who are searching. And not to be judgmental because they may not believe yet, but to actually be open to help people and to be informative and ultimately be a nice person. So I know that's a long answer. I didn't want to just give the easy answer of saying yes and to make it easy on myself. I wanted to be very honest and truthful. And I think that's important in this day and age.
Well, I want to thank you for the performances and also for the openness, the curiosity that this opens up about what it really means to believe. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Ruben Peralta from Cocalecas.net. Since I'm a kid, I've been listening about David and Goliath, even with metaphors, when we see in sports, when we see everything. This is a beautiful metaphor because it's a lot of in the background. I grew up as a Catholic, and they told the stories, we read the Bible, but we never know the story behind the characters, and we don't know how they become this person. And of course we know the actions. And for me, I'm curious about what was the most challenging discovery that you had about your character, because this is a show, this is not just a movie, this is a long show, and we have dialogues that I'm sure they created from fiction. And I wonder, what was the challenging part of your character that you discovered while playing this?
One of the biggest challenges that comes with tackling David is just making him human, and I think oftentimes we put these biblical characters on these pedestals, not understanding that these were ordinary people put in extraordinary circumstances. And so I wanted to most of all make him human and make him relatable, because that's what we all are. That's how a story resonates with us if we see ourselves in someone. And ultimately, I'm portraying David, but I'm not David. David is all of us. We're all an underdog in a way. We all have so many giants in our life that we are facing on a daily basis. And so I think the story is encouragement to overcome that. And one of the challenges that David faces in the show is fear. There's a lion that attacks his flock. There's a giant attacking his people. And from day one of filming, the actor Louis Ferreira, who plays Jesse, David's father in the show, one of his first lines is from scripture. And he says, God said to Joshua, be strong and of good courage. Do not fear, for fear is the enemy, fear is the thief. And ultimately, that's a lesson for both David, but all of us, is to understand that on the other side of fear is who we truly are, and overcoming that fear through God and through love. And ultimately, the real reason why David went up against that lion is to protect his flock, because he loved his sheep. The real reason he went up against the giant is because he loved his God and he loved his people. I think we could all take a page out of David's book there.
How about for you? What was the biggest challenge from Goliath that you discovered?
Biggest challenge for Goliath, I think, was to try and humanize him. Try not to glorify him, but try and give people a perspective of Goliath's life through his own eyes, to try and build empathy, understanding, and to ask awkward questions, you know, to say, well, how would you have responded if you could put yourself emotionally in Goliath's spot? And I spoke about this earlier, you know, some people are fortunate. They have an incredible group of people around them. You guys are fortunate. You have faith. You have, and obviously with faith, I've seen it, you know, especially this last couple of days, the community is incredible. You have so many friends, so much warmth, so much love, so much support. You know, I am sure that every single one of you, if you were going through a bad time, you'd have at least 5 people you could call. Now, imagine if you were going through a bad time, you had no one to call. And then let's put on to that, you had no money, you had no food, you had no future, you had no hopes, you had no prospects. And then something catastrophic was to happen in your situation, your scenario. Would you still make the same decision then that you would make now? Does that make you a good person or a bad person or a person of survival? And those are the questions that are really important. And especially as an actor, it's like, well, okay, I understand your judgment and your viewpoint because of X, Y, and Z. But how about if I was to lay this onto the table? How about if I was to say, well, I'm going to take away all of this that you have, and then I'm going to do this to you as well. And then how would you respond in that situation? And just like I responded to the question earlier off the lovely lady, being truthful sometimes isn't easy. And being honest isn't always what people want to hear. And that was my objective as an actor. It was to try and dig away and turn over some stones for the audience to sit there and think, well, yeah, maybe he wasn't all bad. Maybe what happened to him created a badness and an element of revenge. And ultimately, what the best shows and the best films do is they make you ask questions, they teach you, they educate you, and they open you up to new ways of thinking. That's not saying you should idolize Goliath. That's saying you should understand people and understand how people react.
Thank you so much and congratulations. Great show.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Dana Abercrombie, the Coalition. I want to talk about the psychology of surrender, especially in terms of the David character, where you're facing a lot of battles and you're trying to fight against it, but you realize that, you know, sometimes surrendering is the best option. Can you talk about the psychology of breaking that kind of the ebbs and flows of understanding that not everything that you do has to kind of be by your will and in charge of things?
I think it's a lovely question.
Yep.
I think as human beings, we oftentimes fall for this trap of control. We think that we have any sort of control in life, and that provides so much stress and unnecessary weight, when truly we are in no control over anything. It's all an illusion. And we get in our own way by trying to control our environment and trying to control circumstances. And so I think part of destiny and part of in David's case and in my case, part of trying to follow the will of God is letting go of any sort of control that you have and surrendering to God and surrendering to His will, to truly have acceptance in your heart for any sort of circumstance that might come. And that takes forgiveness, that takes love, and it's a really powerful thing to surrender rather than to control. People who can surrender are more powerful than those who think they control anything. And I think that's part of the reason why David was so successful, is that he did not want his will, but he wanted God's will, and so he surrendered to Him. And for me, I think I found myself successful when I surrendered to the will of God. Whenever I wanted any sort of control, I found my life filled with stress and filled with pain and just it was not a good time. But when I just let go and just exist in the moment and live in the present, there's a quote from Kung Fu Panda, the first movie actually, and it's by Oogway, and he says, "Yesterday is history, the future is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called the present." And so I love that movie and I love that quote, and so I encourage people to just open the present.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Jonathan from Casual Movie Lover. I was only able to watch the first episode, but one thing that stuck with me was Michael singing. And I'd just like you to share the origins of that. Where did you learn how to sing? Also, I realize you're a good instrumentalist. So where does that passion come from? And did you have any involvement in writing the songs for the show?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I think, well, ever since I was a kid, I always had this dream of kind of bringing the Psalms to life. And it's such a mystery what they sounded like, you know. And so I wanted to bring them to life in the original language and maybe hear what they sounded like. And when I got the audition for David, I knew that this was the opportunity to do that. And I knew that singing was going to be involved in the show. And so I remember of my own accord, I went online and I learned a prayer in Hebrew. It's called the Shema. And I added my own Eastern ornamentation to it. And I submitted it to the production team, hoping to inspire them that even if they didn't cast me, whoever was going to play David would have to do this live and would have to sing it in the original language in the Eastern style. And lucky enough for me, I got the opportunity to do that, and I sang and I have a background in music a little bit. My mom bought me my first guitar in high school, and so I picked it up and I started playing, and to me it was such a daunting instrument, but I YouTube tutorials, you know, really come in handy. And so I found that when I during the audition process, it was the lyre. It's a 10-string lyre called the Kinor. And so I bought one off Amazon and I would just, you know, teach myself and I would make songs and I would send it to the production team. And eventually when they brought me the actual lyre that David would play, it was kind of, it was very easy to pick up. And it's also a very easy instrument. Like I think if anyone picks up a lyre, they could play it. It's not difficult. But yeah, but I'm so glad that resonated with you because it's a really special part of the show. Yeah.
Thank you. Everyone did a good job. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Nancy with Film Critique. And my question for you is, what do you hope people will take away from this show?
Yeah. Hi there. Thank you for the question. I think the show as a whole, one people take away a part of the origin of the story, and to, like I said earlier, is to don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, don't be afraid to. For those who already understand it and already know the story, don't be afraid to see it in a different light, or to maybe analyze it in a different light. And I think that's the whole purpose of what we do here and what you were doing in studies is take things and really pull them apart to really understand, to really ask questions. And that's not saying it's going to change your viewpoint, but it will. You know, I think, you know, Michael, you will say this when you read for David and to research David, you understand the Bible so much more now because it was down to you to understand each and every word inside out, upside down, and to put your own emotion and drive into it. And I think that's what this show's all about. This is about educating new people, opening up to a new audience, and giving people the opportunity to make life changes and to, you know, it's a very powerful platform that we have here. And I think that, you know, we really understand the value of that. And ultimately it's to try and put some goodness back in the world and to try and contribute in our own way into helping the individuals make better choices.
Yeah. I mean, I think You know, for me, this is the origin of the underdog story. This is the underdog story. I think just people, a lot of times we are the underdog in our life. You know, like I said before, we have so many giants that we face on a daily basis, and if this story can bring encouragement to anyone facing a hard battle or anything, if it can inspire them to overcome fear, if it can inspire them to overcome a giant, then I hope that's what they take away. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jason Johnson with MSNBC and excuse me, and the Word Podcast. So I have a very basic question. Regardless of if somebody is religious, regardless of if somebody has any sort of previous knowledge of the story, just give me the comps, right? Like if you were envisioning telling this story, selling this show to somebody else, what do you see? I mean, are you Star Wars? Are you the small town kid who ends up fighting the big bad guy at the end? Are you the Matrix? Like if you were sharing this story with people who don't know the story, what is the pop culture comp, film, TV series that you would compare this show to, and from both of you?
I mean, listen, this is the Bible, and so it's difficult to take away religion out of it. But what I will say is that this is the story of David and Goliath. So any other story that comes after is referencing this. So we are telling the original story. This is as ultimate as it gets. There's nothing older when it comes to underdog. And so that's the story we're telling, you know, and it's a biblical story. And so God is a part of that. And for me, I can't really take that away from it. And so I think for me, it's fulfilling on a spiritual level, but I think also in a way, it's told in a really beautiful way. This is a beautiful, cinematic, epic TV show, and I think regardless of anyone's background, they can relate to it, and they feel like they can watch it. And it's a really entertaining TV show, you guys. I watched all 8 episodes, and I was just ripped. I binged it all in one day. And so I think regardless of anyone's background, they I feel like they will relate to the story, and there's so many amazing relationships in it that truly help us understand the most iconic story of all time.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a combination of drama and of love and of aggression and revenge and tactics. There's so many films that you could say, well, that film reminds me of this, and this film reminds me of that. And the problem we've got, and I think this is the problem that Michael has answering that question, is there's so many stories within the episodes that it's very hard to pinpoint. Ultimately, it's good beats evil. Ultimately, is where it comes down to, especially our part, and it's the underdog story and so on. And there's so many films. I'd say 99% of films made now, and in past, are just that. It's good wins over evil at any cost, and at any thought you'd have that there's no way that's going to happen. It always happens. The good will always win, no matter how many bad guys there are. You know, you can go from a film. I was in Fast and Furious. You could have Vin fight 100 bad guys, and Vin always wins. And that's similar to David and Goliath. It's like, there's no way David's going to win, but we all know David wins. But then there's more to this show than just David and Goliath. There's so many elements of the show. It's very hard to pinpoint one. I think that the joy of that means that we've already created something for today as well. We've already created something that shows, like Michael said, this comes from the Bible. There's no story before this. And it just shows you how powerful this book was, because there's so many stories that represent or reference or remind you of these stories that we're telling on this show. And there was one, and you're all going to laugh, but I remember watching the first few episodes, and I was like, this kind of reminds me of Cinderella. and I was like, they've stole this plot so bad, and it's just crazy to see so many stories that are told, from children's stories to action stories, and you go, that is so close to there. And it just shows you how many people know the Bible, and how many people know the stories, and how many people remember those stories. And I think that's the the incredible part. It allows you to use your imagination, but there's always something you can go back to for the real facts of the matter. And that's what we've tried to do. We've tried to keep the story as honest and open and truthful as possible, which I think is not only important, I think it's essential, especially for the groups out there who are so passionate and so warm and loving to all of the stories that could be told from this time.
How's it going? Derek Dunn, Reviews and Done. So my quick question was, did you all avoid each other on set to build up the animosity for the final battle?
No. It's a great question. And it's a question that's been asked quite a few times this morning. But honestly, I've had so much incredible opportunities over the last few years to work on some fantastic shows. And this one show was the one show that there was never a crossword. There was no anger. There was no hate, no frustration. I don't know how many of you guys have been on a film set, but this one show was so special. And not just special because of the story, but I think it was what you guys need to know is the guys behind this, the producers, the writers, the directors, they live the story in the sense of they believe everything they are talking about, and they believe everything should be, the film should be made in the right spirit of their beliefs. And that's why I think we've been able to deliver such an incredible show, which really, it resonates. Yeah, we're very good friends, and everyone on set became very good friends.
Yeah,
the fight scene was, I think it was interesting because obviously as actors you can switch on and switch off. So you try to remember the character rather than the friendship behind there. But what you were talking about is more method acting, which is something I don't really go into anyway, and I don't think you do.
Yeah.
In sorts. So as much as you're trying to be honest and truthful to the character, you can still be nice to the person opposite you on a set once the shout cut.
Yeah, I think ultimately we're human beings. We are not these people. I think you notice some of the animosity between David and Goliath, but I think that's just a testament to the work of the producers of the show, the work of all the people behind the camera, and to the work of Martyn and I. But ultimately, this is a really amazing story, and we didn't want to just make it animosity. There's also a relationship to be had between Goliath and David.
And I think a really important part of that is to remember that David and Goliath never knew each other. So there was no real hate. There was, on Goliath's part, and especially for me, it was more an irritance that this boy had stepped forward. There was no anger to David. There was no intimidation. There was no past relationship. There was no reason not to like him. It was kind of like a fly that needed swatting out of the way, in his opinion, because he had no idea who he was. And likewise, David towards Goliath, there was no real, he knew there was this big guy standing there. There's probably more hate coming from, I wouldn't say hate, but there's more reason for you not to like Goliath than there was vice versa. So I think it was quite easy to keep that relationship as it was, but just remember the reason for the confrontation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, buddy.
Hi, Joel Monroe. So you both seem to really enjoy the process of working on this project. What is something that you individually will take away from this experience and utilize in your next project?
I'm not even thinking about my next project. I'm just I'm all about David right now, and can I talk about what I should talk about? No, I can't talk about it. I'm just very thankful to tell David's story, and I think there's so many lessons to draw from David. There's so many, but the main one for me is of courage and of overcoming fear.
I mean, for myself, it's a question that could have 101 answers, and I think this is, you can look at an actor's point of view, you can look at an individual's point of view, you can look at a self-growth, you can look at so many ways to answer that question. I think as an actor, what I'll take from this is the importance of having time to really understand situations and to try and open up and understand other people's ways of seeing things and not allow yourself to make decisions for a character and try to become that character. And for me, that was quite difficult with Goliath because I just couldn't see how you get to that point. And it was important not to try and put too much of my lightheartedness and humor into Goliath because he wasn't who he was anyway. So I think that's one lesson I'll take away from this. I think there was a couple of scenes that definitely got cut or changed because I was too joyous and too lively. And I was like, this would be great if Goliath had a sense of humor. and it was great and fun, but it wasn't true. So I think there's something I'll take on a professional point. As far as a self-growth point, you know, I don't think you can help but be overwhelmed with the energy within. I don't want to say the wrong word because I don't know how I should phrase this, but I'll be very straight. And if it offends anyone, I'm extremely sorry. I just want to try and put it across. We went to Liberty. Liberty University, and the group in there was absolutely incredible. I don't know how many of you guys know about Liberty or so on. And it's their passion for religion was mind-blowing to me. The energy behind religion was incredible. The warmth, the love, the friendship, the support. It was all of those things times 10. And for me, what I'll take personally is the power of people, the power of having groups of individuals who have a big heart is incredible for self-growth. And I understand the importance of having a community as such as I'm sure you guys are involved with that really want the best for each other and there for each other. And that was something that was incredible. And I think that's ultimately what the, you know, what the whole point of religion is to have a feeling of family, of wantedness and togetherness.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time and answering all of our questions. We appreciate it. On behalf of the largest group of Black TV and film critics, we want to thank you for joining this version of the AAFCA Roundtable series.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.